Hello everyone, we are Symetrics. In this video, I would like to show you a new version of our software SyMath. Basically, in SyMath, you can analyze your portfolios or assets under different scenarios. And here is the starting section input. And in this section, you should select your portfolio scenario, and then by clicking this button, you can run scenarios and see our results. So basically, you can easily select one of our pre-programmed portfolios, and you can select our prepared scenarios, and then you can get the results immediately. Of course, we also provide you some advanced options, and in these options, you can customize your own portfolios or scenarios, and you can also change some settings of the simulation model, and you can also see the detailed information about our dataset. And in this video, let's construct a simple portfolio and a scenario together. Okay, so how to construct a portfolio? Firstly, you should select assets. And in this video, let's just take 4 assets. The first one, let's take the US bond index from Citibank. And the second one, let's take the gold. And nextly, let's take the equity values of developed markets. And finally, let's take the listed real estate of EU. So after setting the assets, we should nextly give asset weights and give a name for this portfolio. So for example, let's call this portfolio 1, and we give the weights, for example, 55, 35, and 10% respectively. And now we save and go back. So you see that we already add this portfolio 1, and here is a pie chart. Okay, so now we want to construct a simple scenario, and in this scenario, we want to improve the US and the EU industrial production. So in order to do that, firstly, we should select a base scenario, and for simplicity, let's just use an empty scenario. And nextly, in step 2, you can select some variables and add shocks to these variables. So in order to help you to find the correct variables, we give you a search engine here. So in the search engine, you can see the left part is asset content, and the right part is our search engine. You can search assets by typing in the correct keywords. Okay, so recall that in this scenario, we want to improve the industrial production of EU and the US. So now let's search industrial production, and you see we already get the 2 relevant variables. And the idea is that we add shock value to these 2 variables. Okay, so now let's do it. Firstly, let's find the EU industrial production and add the shock value 1. And secondly, let's choose the US production industrial production index and add a shock to that. So now basically we already finished the construction of this simple scenario, and if you want, you can go to the next step, and in this step you can select variables and add target values to these variables. Okay, and you can also set the number of months to realize the target value. And finally, we build some behavior rules for you, and you can randomly select them, and you can also see more information about the behavior rules by the symbol I. Okay, and you can see that the newly constructed scenario will be named as normal customized 1. Okay, so now we go back, and you see we already selected the scenario normal customized 1, and here is the specification of this scenario that we improve the US and the EU industrial production. Okay, now let's run this scenario, and you will see the result. So here is the result for our selected portfolio 1 under the scenario here. Okay, more precisely in figure A, you can see the compounded return differences for this selected portfolio between the selected scenario and the normal scenario. Okay, so recall that in our selected scenario, we improve the EU and US industrial production, and as you can see here, this figure shows that this portfolio has a higher compounded return under this scenario than the normal scenario. Okay, and then in table B, we give some risk metrics. For example, we give value at risk, expected shortfall, and maximum drawdown under some selected level. And table C is an easy calculator for portfolio value. Okay, so here is basically what you can get for your selected portfolio, and of course you can always select other portfolios or any other variable to see the similar result. And for example, in this video, let's have a look at what happens to the 4 assets in your portfolio. Okay, firstly, let's have a look at the bond. So now we choose the bond, and you can see that, okay, the bond has a lower compounded return under this scenario. And in order to see the reason, maybe let's have a look at the policy rate of US. Okay, so as you can see, the policy rate of US is higher under this scenario, and this explains why the US bond has a lower compounded return under this scenario. Okay, so nextly, let's have a look at gold. And you can see that the gold has a higher compounded return under this scenario. And now maybe have a look at equity. Okay, the equity also has a higher compounded return under this scenario. And lastly, let's have a look at the listed real estate of EU. Okay, again, it has a higher compounded return. So this makes sense because recall that in our scenario, we improve the EU and US industrial production. Okay, so here is what basically you can get from SyMath, and you can always easily go back and select another portfolio scenario and get a new result. Thank you very much.